Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available through Anchor, and if you'd like to contact the show, you'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the upper tier. Sorry about that. It's too early in the morning for this kind of stuff. Joining me today for a quick Euro 2020 roundup, looking at the preview for the round of 16. Dean Malone. Dean, how you doing, my man?
All right, Noel.
Good, yeah, not too bad at all. Where do we start with this? I suppose it kicks off with Wales versus Denmark. Interesting tie, evenly kind of balanced. I'm, for one reason or another, I think with the Christian Eriksen stuff and stuff like that, I think there's a wave behind these guys. They're due probably a bit of luck, and I'm favouring Denmark in this
one. I think Denmark might go out and 2-1. I'd say you kind of feel sorry for them after the Christian Eriksen stuff, don't you? You really do. You're kind of like, well, maybe they'll go out there, score a couple and beat Wales. Wouldn't be a bad thing. The Wales haven't performed well throughout most of the tournament. The first 3 games they played iffy. So.
Yeah, it's safe to say with Wales, it's the Gareth Bale show, really, isn't it? If Bale doesn't show up, then it doesn't really happen.
We've seen it in the first game, didn't we? Where he was just very, not non-existent, you want to say, but he just didn't get onto things. Just didn't seem interested in the game. And
yeah, absolutely.
Seems to be the last year of his career, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. More interested in golf than football, to be honest. Yeah, so I'm thinking Denmark on that. Then we come on, we have a great game later on today, obviously, Italy versus Austria, which I think is going to be a cracking game. The Austrians, they've been scoring goals on the tournament, but they've also been shipping goals, which will feed nicely into this Italian side, who seems to have come with a plan of attack. A lot of confidence there with a very solid defence at the back, well seasoned with Bonucci, Chiellini and stuff like that. But I think the Italians are going to have way too much for this Austrian team.
I don't know. I think you always expect that upset in the last 16. There's a few ties there now this week that you kind of go, maybe. If the Austrians come out and play well for 60 minutes and don't concede, you could really see them going in, just bang them one in and win the tie, to be honest. If they were able to get to that 60-minute mark without having the Italian score, could genuinely see them banging one, say the 70th, 80th minute, and that's game over for the Italians then. I don't think the Italians can ride the wave that they've had all the way through to the final. And I think that might, I don't want to say this might be the end of it, but there's always that one little shock. So,
but yeah, we'll get on to shocks later, no doubt. But I don't see this being a shock. I think this tie will be over at half time, to be honest.
Really?
I think the Italians are going to be way too strong for the Austrians. Yeah, absolutely.
What score do you reckon it's going to? If you're going to put a score prediction on, like
4-1 or something like that. 4-1.
Big one.
But they've been scoring for fun and they've such a solid defence. I mean, the Austrians are always capable of scoring something, maybe off a set piece or something like that. But the likes of Bonucci and Chiellini and these type of players in there, like they're such seasoned veterans, and they're really up against, an Austrian team that kind of flatters to deceive. Really, you know what I mean?
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, I always worry about teams that are sort of. They're in matches that are sort of losing or winning 4-3, that kind of way. It doesn't feed in very well, So,
but I also think the Italians. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I also think the Italians had an easier group than the rest of them. Do you get me? Like, they kind of went out there and they played for fun during the 3 group games. There was no real team that threatened them. So you wonder now whether the Austrians will come out and give them that little threat that they might need.
I don't know. You look at the Austrian group as well. I mean, the standout team is obviously the Netherlands. But I mean, you wouldn't have looked on paper and said that that's a tough group. Austria, Ukraine, and North Macedonia. I know they came through and stuff like that. But I mean, to be honest with you, if it had been Ukraine versus Italy, I would have thought they'd put up a better show than Austria. To be honest, because I think the Ukraine team are way stronger than the Austrian team. But yeah, we will see how that one goes. That's an interesting one. But 2 great ties today to kick off the round of 16. Moving on then, we've got the Netherlands versus the Czech Republic. This again is an interesting one. But if you look at the Czech Republic as well, they seem to stumble their way through, but they don't seem to do a whole lot.
Yeah, and that was proven in the England game as well. they played solidly for like say 70 minutes of the game, and then they kind of just, though they lost 1-0, you could still see they were a little bit of a threat. But there was that whole thing throughout the group where they showed signs of being a good team, and then just fumbled. Obviously, they went through on third place, was it? Second place?
Czech Republic were third place.
Third place, yeah.
England
So
and Croatia, like it was a kind of madness of a group in the end when you think about it. But I mean, you look at England as well. I mean, they couldn't get any joy against England, and England aren't exactly. I mean, they're not lighting up the tournament. Let's say, I mean, they're getting through. It's workmanship and stuff like that. They're not exactly. I mean, you wouldn't be throwing your house on England at the moment to win this tournament.
I mean, I was kind of still.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that. In terms of the Netherlands, I mean, Gini Wijnaldum's absolutely flying at the moment. How Liverpool, we never played him in that position where he scores goals. It's kind of weird.
Unbelievable.
Because he scores goals for fun. And obviously Memphis.
And then you look at, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, after getting his contract now at Barcelona and stuff like that, so he'd be fired up to put on a real good performance, stuff like that. Again, I probably see Netherlands winning this probably by the odd goal, because if you look at the Netherlands as well, they don't tend to overcommit in terms or overdo things. They go through. I see this being maybe 2-1, 3-1, maybe something like that to the Netherlands.
I could see it being a 2-0 win for the Netherlands, to be genuinely honest with you. I think the Netherlands have played well through. They've played some amazing football. When you look at the tournament wise, and you look at the Netherlands team, again, like the Italians, they just played really nice football. It was gorgeous stuff. Gini Wijnaldum, phenomenal. You'd look at it as well and think we should have got Memphis this summer on a free. It would have hoped we would have went to Barca instead. Yeah. Unbelievable. Dumfries as well, another lad that's just shown up in this tournament, phenomenal. So
and Gini as well, of course, yeah, absolutely. Probably one of the tie of the rounds, Belgium versus Portugal. Now, I can only say Belgium because I've had my flag nailed to the mast of Belgium right from the beginning. I think it's their time to shine.
Will Lukaku show up?
He hasn't failed to show up in the last 12 months, has he?
But, the pressure gets the lads in. You get to the last 16 of the tournament and the pressure will start getting the lads knowing that it's one game and you're out. It's not like in the group games, or it's not like you see with so many lads that get to this point in the tournament and then they fumble, essentially. They don't play well. So
yeah, I think it'll test the Belgium defence all right. I mean, you've Ronaldo up there and Diogo Jota and stuff like that, so they'll definitely test the Belgian defence. But I'm looking at that Portuguese defence there with Pepe and stuff, and I'm thinking Lukaku, he's just going to eat him up. And I don't see any pressure on Lukaku at all because he's had an outstanding season. Every single team is in for him. He said he wants to stay at Inter, but the reality is if he gets a move, he'll get a move. Things aren't going to look that good at Inter this season, I don't think.
That's not, yeah.
But I just think he's been unbelievable. I mean, he was outstanding in the Italian League this year, and he's brought that form straight into the Belgian tournament. Kevin De Bruyne coming back into the team, absolutely massive. To think Kevin De Bruyne coming back into the team, you know what I mean, is only going to, bring good things. And I just think also you've Eden Hazard there and his brother, but Eden Hazard at the moment, it's about time he sort of kicked on and showed up. This is his time to shine. He's had a poor move to Real Madrid, needs to put something together, And I just think this is Belgium's time to sign. I think they fractionally sort of edge it. I don't think it's going to be much in it, but I think we could be in for a real end-to-end kind of game and stuff like that. Could be really good. This is not going to be one of those tactical kind of battles, if you like, you know what I mean? This is going to be just pure footballing for the fans, I think.
It has 1-0 written all over it, to be honest, to either team. When you look at it, genuinely, I believe Portugal are going to go out and do it against them. I think Ronaldo, Jota, those boys are going to show up. You'd hope.
Yeah, I don't see this being a 1-0. I see this being like a goal fest. I think this is going to be like a 3-2 or something like that.
Like the France and Portugal game?
Yeah, I think this is going to be, because I just think with Portugal as well, once they switch on and they realise that they're in a game and there's goals going in, they just abandon defence. You see Pepe and all just going forward and all for like set pieces and stuff like that. It's a total madness. Like,
I suppose, yeah. I don't know. It's one of the tighter games to call more than anything else in like this.
Yeah, I think it's tight in terms of calling the result.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of goals, I could see plenty of goals in this game. I think this game could go the same way as the French game. It could be just absolute madness.
All out.
Yeah, absolutely all out. Yeah.
Shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. Croatia versus Spain is an interesting one because Croatia look a shadow really of the team that they were. But once you've guys like Modric and all still in there, there's always that chance that like he can switch it on at any stage. Spain, I think, have been. I don't know, the understanding of the player picks is a bit strange. I know they won the last game 5-0 or whatever it was, and I think that was an outstanding result. But I mean, that's come out of nowhere really when you think about it.
I mean, you look at Dean Fitz and he'll constantly say, Morata, why? And it just doesn't make sense. Obviously, he scored in the last game, scored 2, I think, in the last game there, and played well, but Spain just have been a shadow of themselves in the past 2 to 3 years, I think. And coming into this tournament, no one had expectations for them. I think, obviously, living up to what people are thinking as well. They got to the last 16. I could see Croatia beating them 2-1, 3-1. I think if the Croatians show up properly, which hopefully they will, they done it against, obviously, Scotland, where he's in that position, but he did show up against Scotland. Didn't show up against England. But
I suppose it boils down to player selection as well. I mean, I'd be more confident. This is kind of a very difficult one to call until you kind of see the Spain team, because is he going to abandon Morata? Because you only at this stage in the round of 16, you only get a couple of opportunities at these tight games. And I don't know whether he could squander those opportunities on Morata. So like Gerard Moreno really has to come in here because his finishing is key. But I also think in order to pull the strings in midfield, I don't know whether the answer is that young lad Pedri. I think he's an outstanding player and stuff like that. But don't you really need the experience of a Thiago in there moving that ball?
But that's and he hasn't given him that this tournament.
Yeah. So I'm confused by the player selections. And I just wonder, will he go slightly differently in this one?
He brought Thiago on for the last 20 minutes of the first game. You're looking at it going, Thiago can change again when he comes on the pitch. Yeah. You should be bringing him in on a half time there and let him change the way of the game. Let him get them balls into the box. The way he does for us, phenomenal.
Or just playing from the beginning and get the job done.
Yeah.
And don't mess around. I think it's a lot to ask a young lad like Pedri, an 18-year-old, to lead that middle line there. I know Busquets is in there as well, but Busquets is really coming towards it. He's on the downslide of his career, really, when you think about it. This is a real tough one to call. I'm thinking Croatia might be just a little bit too strong for them. But again, if I thought Spain were going to start with Thiago and Moreno, I might have a different view. But again, we won't know that until on today.
I think if Modric shows up, which again I say show up, but like if Modric plays the way we know he can play, it can be a 2-1, 3-1 game when Modric scoring 2-3. He just needs, like, obviously had the World Cup final, disappointing, whatever. They just need that they need that run again.
Yeah.
And I think this could be the start of it against Spain, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, we've seen shades of it against Scotland. I mean, they played really well
against Scotland, really well.
You know what I mean? And it's more like the Croatia that we know. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the one that shows up. But again, I think this whole tie is hinging on Luis Enrique's player selection.
100%.
I just think that's where it's at. And I think that's where they will either succeed or fail. I don't think they could be leaving players like Thiago on the bench. I don't think they could be justified Morata over Gerard Moreno without a shadow of a look at the season he's had in Spain and everything, and also going on to win the Europa League and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So crazy. Next one is a kind of a slippery one, I think. Most people will be just putting their mortgage on France versus Switzerland. So
here's your one. This is your big one.
This is the one that I'm thinking. As you said, there's always an upset somewhere in here. And although like Belgium are playing Portugal and England are playing Germany and stuff like that, I don't regard them as an upset because it's kind of even. So it could go either way. So it's not necessarily an upset. Either way it could go. But I think with this one, I don't know. I think there's a weight of expectation on France at the moment. I think where they've played some reasonable football, again, I don't think they presented themselves in any way to be the standout tournament favourites. I look at the Netherlands, I look at Italy, who I think have performed way above what France have performed. And just with Switzerland, they're after picking up their form there a little bit. Shaqiri with 2 goals there the other day and
Yeah,
stuff
but
like that. And 2 goals, what I mean? And I just think, I wonder would Switzerland figure out the key to unlock them somehow, you know what I mean? And I could say this is the one that stands out to me to be like the shock of the round. And I could be wrong now. I know France are a great team and stuff like that. N'Golo Kante, all these kind of players. Man for man on the page, they put Switzerland away easily. But as we've seen in the past with Switzerland, they don't easily go away.
yeah.
And that's the problem. So I don't know. It's kind of like.
I mean, we spoke about this during the week in the shop, and I used the whole. You have Benzema there, you have Mbappe, and you also have a strong bench. And you also have like a fucking phenomenal backline there, Varane and things like that. But again, the Swiss just seem to break teams down, and it was shown there during the night with Shaqiri.
Yeah.
2 phenomenal goals, 2 world class goals, and you're there going, if they can perform like that against France, then France are in trouble.
Potentially, I mean, you look at the group stages. I mean, they drew 1-1 with Wales, which is not a great Wales side. And in fairness, they battered Wales that day. How Wales got a draw that day, I do not know. Switzerland should have been about 4-0 up at half time.
The chances in that game were unbelievable, weren't they? It was like
I think they hit a bar on a post as well. But the keeper made 3 world class saves in a row, 1 from play and 2 off corners, and then eventually Switzerland broke them down. But I think with Switzerland, if they could play that kind of game that they played against Wales, but put their opportunities away, I think they could give France a real problem. I mean, ultimately, the pundit in you would say, yeah, France is going to go through here.
Obviously.
Move on. But I just think that's the toy there to me that sticks out that says this could be a potential banana skin. And it's whether it's, I suppose it's France as well. I mean, like if we get the Pogba that we know we can get it, N'Golo Kante and stuff like that, well, then it's a different
I think Pogba showed up against Portugal as much. Like, he played so well against Portugal. Obviously, didn't get the result.
Yeah.
3 very, very dodgy penalties, in my opinion. But we won't go there. But I think if Pogba shows up, Kante shows up, all these lads show up in this game, they could go on to beat them 4-5 now. If you think about it, if France truly go out and play the best football, which they haven't so far in the tournament, but also on the other end, Switzerland could go out and beat them 1 or 2-0, and it wouldn't be a shock. It'd be a shock to most of us, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the tie of the round for most people, England versus Germany. This is the old rivalry rekindled again. I don't know. There's a wave there of England. You know what I mean? The expectation there at the moment is. I mean, the caveat for this is obviously if they beat Germany, they've a reasonable run nearly to the final.
Yeah.
They're in a great side of the draw there with a great opportunity. But I mean, the if there is if they beat Germany. Now we have this German team here who hasn't shown huge amounts of form. I mean, they drew 2-2 with Hungary and stuff like that and all. But we know that German side, when it shows up, the experience that it has with Muller in there and various players like that, unbelievable. We know that, like the likes of Hummels at the back, we know he's moved on a little bit. He's not the Matt Hummels that we know, but again, very, very strong and not easy to break down. We also know that at times England, with their selection, they don't necessarily select the right players or formation to break down the likes of a staunch German team, as shown in some of their own results. I mean, the match against Scotland, where Scotland should beat them, let's be honest there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the question is, if you're looking at that England side, I mean, I'm a bit concerned where I don't see, Jadon Sancho not getting a lot of team time or game time, as we say. But again, you've England there kind of struggling at times to break teams down. When
I went out on a limb in this tournament and said England are going to win it,
you did.
I'm going to continue that. I'm not going to go back on my pick. I think if he plays the right team, if he starts Grealish, I think you have to drop Harry Kane for the game against Germany. He just has not played to his abilities in this tournament whatsoever. He's had a couple of chances in each game, just hasn't been there. Play Marcus Rashford, play Sterling. I mean,
he ain't going to make that call, though, is he? I mean, he's not going to drop Harry Kane.
I mean, you'd hope he would. Genuinely do. I think And you need a lad on the pitch, like not obviously Harry Kane has experience, but you need a Hendo, you need a Maguire on the pitch that can scream at that team. You've seen him with Henderson all season for Liverpool, you've seen him with Maguire for United. You need someone on that pitch that can take charge of a team. Harry Kane just does not do that. He hasn't done it in the first 3 games. I don't see him doing it against Germany. I think you start Jadon Sancho, whether he makes that call or not is another thing. I know they're saying that Saka is ahead of Sancho now after the game he played against the Czech Republic, but
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be bringing changes up front, really. I mean, I definitely find a place for a player like Jadon Sancho and stuff like that. But I think, you know what's key to this game, and I really think it's key? I think this game is tailor-made for a Ben Chilwell and also a Reece James to play. Because I think they're both attacking styles up the wings. And I think up the wings is where you can get at Germany, because I think down the middle they're very strong. But I think this game is tailor-made for those type of changes. But I just don't know. He's such a safe bet, Southgate. I mean, don't see him. Like if he makes one change, it's nearly dramatic for him. You know? Do you play
Mason Mount or Jack Grealish? That's the other big question now as well. Obviously, if Mason Mount is allowed to play the game, you'd wonder whether he's just going to go to safe pick and Mount, or he's going to go for that option of Grealish, who played unbelievable against Czech Republic, in my opinion. In the first 45 minutes anyway, he played a really good game. So
yeah, I suppose it's a tough one to call. I mean, it's like with Mount and Grealish, it is really the flip of a coin, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and like you've never, I don't remember, like, I mean, England are drenched in talent. It's figuring out the conundrum of what way you want to play them and stuff like that. But I don't think they want to get down into a dogfight with Germany, because if they get into a dogfight with Germany, you're ultimately potentially looking at extra time and penalties.
Yeah.
And we know how that typically goes, and that's not the place to be going to. So I think England, they need to put out some sort of a formation here that tries to wrap this up at 90 minutes and get the job done and move on. They have a great opportunity in this tournament to move on and go really deep and far into it, at least to the final. You know, if not win it, they do have an opportunity. But I just wonder with Southgate, with his kind of dogged way of digging in and that kind of little negativity that sometimes comes in, I don't think he's going to be brave enough to make the decisions. And I think you kind of stand by your decisions as well. If you're brave enough to make them and they work out, you move on in the tournament, you have a great chance, and your applaud never goes, yeah, he took the chance, he used the squad, he did what he had to do, and it's fantastic. If you don't make those decisions and potentially you go out to Germany saying extra time or penalties or in a very tight game, questions are going to be asked. Well, why didn't you use Chilwell? Why didn't you use Reece James? Why aren't you using these players? You told us you weren't going to bring any tourists. These were tourists. Why did you do it?
Well, when you look at that bench, there's been 7 or 8 tourists so far in the tournament. Like, genuinely, and you look at it, like Ben Chilwell hasn't started the game, hasn't played in the game actually. For that matter, has not played. Reece James had 1 game, has it? Tyrone Mings has played really well. I think.
And Maguire played really well. Maguire back in the team is huge.
Yeah, and again, there's so much talent on that bench, and you look at it going, you really should make a couple of changes going to the Germany game and just go all out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, like as you said, it's all going to depend on you. Like they'll call you on your changes after the game. Essentially, people are like, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. Or
and we know Germany's tactics. Germany are just going to try and bully them.
Oh,
we know it.
100%.
And the case is there. Like, I mean, if you've got a Chilwell and a Reece James in there who have been outstanding this year, club and country, they won't feed into that. You know what I mean? I think they'll go beyond that. I think that gives you great options on both wings. And I think that's where it can be potentially won. And I think that's the kind of support that they need as well. Because if you look at Harry Kane, he's been pretty anonymous in the tournament when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I think the problem for Harry Kane is he's not, because he's dropping so deep and trying to make things happen, there's no one in front of him to explore those opportunities. So I think if you have the 2 boys attacking up the wings, I think it brings Harry Kane much more into the game with much more opportunities for him. And we know how good a finisher he is when he gets the opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be key. This is going to be one of those games that defines Southgate, really. Has he got the bravery to make the changes needed? Because there is players there that haven't performed. And
in regards to the Germans, then, do we think this is where he brings Timo Werner back into the team now? Or do you keep Kai Havertz there? Like, what way do you?
Timo Werner in no way, shape or form impacts Kai Havertz's position on the team. Kai Havertz has been the player.
But you know what I mean? Like, in that sense, like, I don't mean like, I just mean like, is this where you bring Timo Werner back into the tournament? Or do you just leave the way you've set up?
I don't know. I mean, if you look at the Portuguese game, it was 4-2, but obviously there was two OGs. But I mean, you make your own luck. But I think we're going to see the German team that we seen against Portugal. I don't think he's going to change much. He has a slightly different conundrum to Southgate insofar as there isn't riches of talent on the
No.
German side. You know what I mean? And he's very set in his way in the way he plays, but they're very good at playing the way they play.
Yeah.
With England, when they come into these tournaments, because they kind of have a poor run into the tournament, like their friendlies aren't great either if you look at the results and stuff like that. So I think they have to still, they're in the tournament still trying to find what's best for them. Whereas Germany come in, know what they have to do, they know their roles and stuff like that. And like, you know, beat Portugal 4-2, it's not to be sneered at, even if there's two OGs.
No.
And it was a crazy game. But I mean, Germany came from, I mean, if you look at that group, I mean, three teams in that group are going out at one stage in those matches, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
ended up with Germany coming second, which was outstanding, you know. And I think
I mean,
we always say with Germany as well, but these teams, if you look at the teams that tend to want to win these tournaments, they tend to be the teams that kind of stumble along a little bit and come alive in the round of 16 on. And Germany, I think, is one of those teams. And yeah, having Timo Werner there available is a huge boost and stuff like that. But Kai Havertz has been arguably player of the tournament. He's been outstanding.
played really, really well.
Yeah, and then at a time where there hasn't been a lot of focus on the German team. I mean, they lost 1-0 to France and they drew 2
And I think
to Hungary.
I think Havertz needed it after the season that he had as well, where he just didn't get the performance that he obviously wanted to. He didn't play as well as he wanted to. And I think coming into this tournament now and he's played and people are talking about him again, they're giving him that little bit of hype. Maybe going into next season with Chelsea, he could be one of the best players next season.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, he had a tough season as well. I mean, the move to the Prem was
Yeah.
tough for him. Then he got injured, and then he got COVID, and then there's no doubt, and Ian will agree with me on this. I think he was suffering a lot from that long COVID stuff as well. He was just drained.
Yeah.
But now we're really seeing the real Kai Havertz, and I think he's going to be unbelievable next season. The chap is unplayable. Like, it's unbelievable.
He's only 22 years of age as well, like, so he still has a lot of time to.
Absolutely. And to be playing with that kind of maturity in a German side at 22 is
phenomenal.
Incredible. But yeah, I think so. What are you're sticking with England, are you?
I'm gonna stick with England. I'm not gonna give a score on it.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know, to be honest. I reckon, as you said, it genuinely could be an extra time penalty thing if the Southgate puts out, if he plays the likes of Chilwell, James, I could see England doing it normal time. If he doesn't and he just sticks to what he's played with in the first three group games, I can just see it being a war fest, to be honest. I can see it being a drawn out 120 minutes.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to stick with Germany because I believe the German organisation will win out in the end compared to England still trying to figure out what they're trying to do. And that's what sort of edges it for me. And then finishing up Sweden versus Ukraine. Everyone talking about Alexander Isak like he's Pele. I'm still trying to figure out the buzz about him. I've seen him miss more opportunities than he's put away. But there seems to be a buzz about the kid. And he seems to be putting himself out. And I suppose the argument is you have to put yourself into those opportunities.
Yeah.
You have to start taking them as well. I'm looking at the Ukraine side here with Shevchenko, who I think is obviously an outstanding player he was, but also coach there. You see the Ukraine coming into a bit of form, playing really, really well. They're strong. They don't give an awful lot away. They're very, very clever in the way they play. And I could just see the Ukraine bullying Sweden out of the tournament.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Genuinely, I would. I think the Ukraine, not strong, but they've played decent throughout the tournament. And we know how the Swedes play at this point. We've seen them throughout different tournaments. And I reckon the Ukraine 2-3-0, 4-0 maybe, if they get on form.
I don't think it'll be that much. I think Ukraine will have enough for them. But again, if you look at the Swedish fan base as well, I mean, that's like the 12th man for them. I mean, their following is phenomenal. That's Sea of Yellow, you know.
I genuinely do see the Ukraine going out and just, I'll say 2-0 on.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a huge score. To me, I'm thinking kind of 2-1.
Really?
I'm thinking kind of 2-1, yeah, because I fancy both these teams to score as well, because they'll know they need to go out and attack.
You just don't want that for your bet, that's why.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to follow your bet, don't you? Like, you can't contradict your bet if you do your bet. But I think the Ukraine, and then I think with those teams going through, it sets up for a fantastic quarter final. Like, you know, it's going to be outstanding.
when you look at that, especially the left side of the bracket, them quarterfinals are just so nice when you look at it. They're going, there's some real clashes there that you're going to go, right.
Yeah,
Big teams there.
You would ultimately think it comes down on that side. If England can get past Germany, it's going to really come down to isn't it? It's going to be England, Germany, and Holland. And whatever sort of conundrum of that it is. That's how I feel that's going to go. The other side is death row.
Oh.
The other side basically is, in order to get to the final, you're going to nearly have to win 3 finals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's great.
Yeah. And that's why I'm hoping Southgate has the courage to make those changes and do what he needs to do, because I don't think he'll ever get a better opportunity with a one-sided draw to get the pathway to the final. And I'm not saying the Netherlands are going to be a pushover. I'm not saying they're going to walk through Germany and stuff like that. But I think if you turned around to Gareth Southgate and you said, listen, you have a match against Germany in the round of 16 and then you'll have a reasonably easy run to the final, I think you take your hand off of that. You know?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. But it remains to be seen, but it's going to be an exciting few weeks coming up. I can't wait.
Can't wait for now. The following week now, we'll see now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, pleasure having you on as always. Thanks for jumping on. We do this sort of round of 16 preview. It's going to be a cracking 4 or 5 days of football now coming up. Can't wait to enjoy every minute of it. As always, Dynamo Podcast on YouTube, Podcast Network on YouTube, the upper tier. This has been your Euro 2020 round of 16 preview. Cheers, Dan.
This one.